Ralf Schumacher has revealed that Aston Martin is preparing a serious move to sign Charles Leclerc for 2027. Despite years of loyalty and elite performances, Leclerc is heading toward the end of yet another Ferrari season without a single win. With 4 races left in 2025, Leclerc must decide, stay with a team that keeps failing him or join the most ambitious project in Formula One. This is more than a rumor. It's the opening chapter of the biggest driver shift since Hamilton joined Mercedes. Before I tell you all the information, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and we'll continue with the news. Charles Leclerc is walking through the final phase of the 2025 season with a silence that says more than any team radio ever could. 4 races remain, and Ferrari still hasn't given him a car capable of winning. Not once this year has he crossed the finish line first. And now, Ralf Schumacher has revealed that Aston Martin quietly and deliberately is preparing to make a move. Not for attention. Not for headlines. But for Leclerc. A driver they believe can lead the next era of Formula One. This is not just speculation. It is strategic positioning from a team building something serious. Aston Martin has Adrian Newey on board. Honda power units in development. A campus that mirrors the best of Mercedes and Red Bull. What they need now is the driver. The anchor. The one who can elevate the project beyond engineering, and Charles Leclerc fits that role perfectly. He's not just quick. He's hardened. Forged by disappointment. Sharpened by years of carrying the weight of Ferrari without ever once letting it define his commitment. But commitment has limits even for a driver as loyal as Leclerc. This season has pushed him to the edge. Time and again, he delivered on Saturdays, only to see Sundays unravel through no fault of his own. Strategy errors, inconsistent upgrades, poor tire windows. The excuses have changed, but the outcome has stayed the same. No wins. And in a sport built on fractions, it's not the gap to Verstappen that hurts most. It's the gap between what was promised and what was delivered. And this is exactly where Aston Martin finds its opening. They're not offering noise. They're offering structure. With Fernando Alonso nearing the final chapter of his legendary career, the team needs a new leader. Someone young, yet experienced. Passionate, yet surgical. And in Leclerc, they see all of it. He has the raw pace of a champion and the emotional control of someone who's seen too much not to think clearly. That combination is rare. It doesn't shout. It moves in silence, and it wins when the foundation is right. Inside Ferrari, the mood has shifted. Leclerc still plays the part. He shows up, delivers data, respects the badge. But the belief that once radiated from him, that sense of building toward something real, has dimmed. Not because he's angry. Because he's tired. Tired of lifting the team through crisis after crisis. Tired of potential being the only thing that's ever on time. And Aston Martin is ready to offer him something Ferrari has failed to provide for too long, a system built to win. Charles Leclerc did not need a championship in 2025. What he needed, what he asked for in every meeting, every interview, every winter test, was a car that allowed him to fight. Not win every race. Just fight. What he received instead was a machine that teased potential but collapsed under pressure. The SF25 looked balanced in clean air, but the moment it entered traffic or had to manage tires over a stint, its fragility was exposed. In modern Formula One, you can't play catch-up on Sundays. And Ferrari have been chasing shadows all year. From the very first races, it became clear that Maranello had once again misjudged the direction. The car had solid one-lap pace in some conditions, but couldn't maintain competitiveness across full race distances. Cooling issues, inconsistent grip windows, and floor upgrades that delivered instability instead of traction, all of it compounded the same problem. The package didn't evolve. While McLaren, Mercedes, and even Aston Martin made measurable gains, Ferrari stood still. And for a driver like Leclerc, that stagnation cuts deeper than any DNF. But what made this year worse was the execution. Not just the car, but the calls. Strategy decisions in high-pressure moments continued to undermine Leclerc's efforts. In Austria, a tire misread cost him a likely podium. In Canada, he was left exposed during a safety car. In Japan, an aggressive undercut attempt backfired, dropping him out of the points. These aren't one-offs. They're symptoms of a deeper issue. Ferrari still cannot manage the complexity of a modern race weekend at a top-tier level. And through all of it, Leclerc remained composed. No blame, no outbursts. But behind that professionalism is a man who knows the value of time and knows he's running out of it. He's 28. In his prime. And watching every season slip away because the structure around him fails to rise to his level. That's not frustration. That's reality. And when reality sets in, decisions follow. This is the precise moment Aston Martin has been waiting for. They're not trying to convince Leclerc with charm or media hype. They're speaking the only language a driver in his position understands: control, competence, and clarity. They're building a team around long-term excellence, not weekend miracles. And that contrast is starting to show. Leclerc, for the first time, is listening. Not to the noise but to the silence where belief used to be. The SF25 was Ferrari's promise to Leclerc that they had finally learned from their past. It was meant to be stable in long corners, predictable under load, and forgiving on tire wear. But from the first test in Bahrain, it became clear that promise would go unfulfilled. The car was fast on certain Fridays and lost on too many Sundays. It had no reliable correlation between data and track behavior. And in a championship where precision defines podiums, this lack of predictability was fatal. Leclerc, as always, adapted. He adjusted his brake balance to smoothen corner entry. He recalibrated his throttle application to preserve traction. At circuits like Suzuka and Imola, he drove around the car's limitations with such fluency that casual fans believed the package was improving. It wasn't. He was simply extracting performance no one else could. He made the SF25 look competitive in spite of itself. And that illusion of progress might have bought Ferrari time. But it cost Leclerc results. The core issue remained unsolved. Ferrari's updates failed to correct the SF25's fundamental flaws. The rear end lacked mechanical consistency. Aero upgrades introduced instability under yaw. In mixed conditions, the car became nervous, difficult to trust when it mattered most. Engineers were left chasing balance with setup changes that worked for one compound but destabilized the next. Leclerc wasn't just fighting his competitors, he was managing chaos from within his own cockpit. This is the kind of pressure that either breaks drivers or reveals their level. And Leclerc revealed his. No complaints on the radio. No shots in the press. Just relentless execution. He worked longer hours in the simulator. He stayed in Maranello during off weeks to review setup telemetry. Not because he was trying to survive, but because he still wanted to lead. Even if the car was 3 steps behind, he wasn't going to let Ferrari fail from a lack of effort. Aston Martin sees all of this. And they don't see a driver in decline, they see one being wasted. They see a man who has mastered the art of performing under structural failure. For a team entering a new era with Honda Power and Adrian Newey at the helm, this kind of mental and technical resilience is invaluable. They're not interested in marketing appeal alone. They're interested in a driver who already knows how to build, how to suffer, and how to lead through failure. That's what makes Leclerc the perfect fit for their vision. Not because he's desperate, but because he's done waiting. The way he's driven this year without complaint, without error, without reward has only strengthened his value. And if Ferrari doesn't act with urgency, Aston Martin will. Because they're not just preparing a car. They're preparing a home. One where Charles Leclerc wouldn't need to adapt around problems because he'd be part of solving them. There is something deeper than frustration now. Charles Leclerc is no longer racing to prove a point, he's racing to protect a sense of self. Because after 7 years with Ferrari, after the highs of Monza and the heartbreaks of Abu Dhabi, he's learned that reputation cannot replace results. And in 2025, he's been left exposed once again. No wins. No real progress. And no credible sign that next year will be any different. For a driver who gave everything to the Red Project, the cost is no longer just competitive, it's personal. The real consequence isn't in the point standings. It's in the erosion of belief. Leclerc no longer walks into the paddock with the same fire in his eyes. He hasn't abandoned the team, but he has stopped defending them. That silence speaks louder than any post-race quote. It tells engineers, rivals, and insiders the same thing. The man who once believed Ferrari could rebuild is now weighing something else entirely. And when belief fades, exits become options, not betrayals. Ferrari, for all its history, is standing on a cliff edge. Losing Leclerc wouldn't just be a talent drain. It would be a message to the entire racing world that even their most loyal, most patient, most polished driver gave up waiting. In the hybrid era, the team has burned through elite drivers and brilliant engineers. But Leclerc was the one who stayed. The one who believed. If he leaves, Ferrari won't just lose performance, they'll lose credibility. Meanwhile, Aston Martin isn't just preparing a contract, they're preparing a story. One that starts with redemption. A new works engine, a wind tunnel calibrated by Newey, and a leadership vacuum created by Alonso's eventual exit. They know they need a face. A voice. A driver who can unite a factory, absorb pressure, and still deliver when it matters. They don't just want Leclerc because he's fast. They want him because he's already survived worse and he's still getting stronger. The consequence is now shifting from Ferrari's past to Aston Martin's future. If Leclerc makes the move, he will carry with him more than skill. He will carry knowledge. He will carry scars. He will carry a hunger that no simulator can replicate. And in a sport where the next cycle could define the next decade, that's exactly the kind of asset you build around. Not a superstar who needs a perfect car, but a worker who never stopped believing in a better one. So the question isn't whether Leclerc still wants to win with Ferrari. Of course he does. The question is whether he still believes they can help him get there. Because belief is the currency that drives every long-term decision in Formula One. And Ferrari, after 25 races without a victory, might be running out of it.